and aid finally arrives in Tonga as runways are cleared of ash. But a wider clean-up will be difficult. So too, providing clean water. For more, Joyce Singhal from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies joins us. Mr. Singhal, we've seen more information coming through following the arrival of aid supplies. Has your assessment of the disaster on Tonga changed since then?
Not a lot. I mean, we are now getting more information as to what the real damage is looking like on the ground. And it is reconfirming our initial thoughts based on our experience of having worked in Tonga for the past decades, along with the Tongan Red Cross, that the relief needs are related to safe drinking water. We are seeing large amounts of ashfall that has completely blanketed the islands. We are seeing that crops and have been also covered with ash, and severe shortages of drinking water because all the water bodies have been contaminated because of the acid rain and ashfall. We are also seeing large amount of damage to the houses that we had expected and predicted before. We are seeing almost all the 100,000 people or inhabitants of various islands in Tonga have been affected because of the situation and the acid rain and ashfall, as you can see on the screen right now. We are anticipating that the recovery needs would be excruciatingly high and would require a large amount of time for rehabilitation and recovery. And as you can again see on the television screen, a large amount of support would be required for livelihoods and agriculture-related activities because a lot of cropping and agricultural fields have been also covered by ashfall and would require significant amount of investment to restore and remove the ash that has covered and blanketed the entire landscape of the country.
Mr. Singhal, the long-term needs are enormous, as you just mentioned, but right now, the immediate needs, how is the distribution effort going now that aid has arrived in Tonga?
So it is challenging. I mean, as we know that the Tonga population is spread across 36 islands, and it is very difficult to cross from one island to the other because of transport challenges. As we also know that during the initial days, communications was cut off. Now, while the communication is slowly coming up in the country, there are still challenges when teams are moving from one island to the other to do assessments and also to at the same time carry large amount of relief items. While the runway has opened, the aid has landed in the capital city, but to take the aid from one island to the other is becoming very challenging because of logistical constraints, because of limited amount of boats that are available to carry people, and because of limited amount of communication which is available to pass information as to which particular island would require large amounts of aid and where majority of the people have been affected. We're also seeing challenges in terms of families which have been basically cut off because of communication challenges. So restoring families to each other is another priority that we are seeing right now. So yeah, I mean, taking aid from one place to the other and to distribute it is challenging because of communications, because of transport supplies challenges, and because of boats that are required to ferry people from one place to the other, alongside assessment needs that are challenging.
Mr. Singhal, experts are trying to assess the impact of what's happening with the air quality, with the water quality as well. We know that toxic sulfuric gases have been spewed into the air. It's difficult for people to get access, for example, to masks, to clean drinking water. Put it into perspective for us right now, though, the critical areas of relief that the Tongans need.
So as you have rightly mentioned, I mean, clean drinking water is one of the most priority need for the inhabitants in Tonga right now. Apart from that, safe masks. So we were already providing masks as part of our COVID relief operations, but we are increasing that. So we already had pre-positioned supplies to support about 1,200 families with drinking water, with tarpaulins, with shelter assistance, and with masks, which would help them for the particulate matters which are now circulating in the environment. And we are now beefing up our efforts to bring in big water tanks in the country, to bring in bladders to carry water and then to basically transport water from one place to the other. So in that sense, clean drinking water, availability of face masks, also to see that the health facilities continue to function. because there could be an outbreak of COVID as well in the country in the coming days. So under the circumstances, there could also be a potential of disease outbreaks, such as, for example, diarrhea, which could come up because of lack of safe drinking water. So water, sanitation, shelter, and the face mask because of the polluted air are immediate priorities for the people in the country.
Mr. Singhal, volcanic eruptions rarely occur just once. Of course, New Zealand already warning of more eruptions in the days ahead. Now, you talk about logistical difficulties. With potentially more volcanic eruptions, is this something that's affecting your distribution of aid in the country?
So we are already thinking of that there could be subsequent eruptions, and there could be also subsequent earthquakes that could be happening because of the earthquake that had happened this time, or because of the volcanic eruption. So these aftershocks would continue for a certain duration of time. Now, that is not only going to be affecting the aid effort, that is also going to be fueling a sense of fear in the residents who may not be very comfortable to go back to their stationary houses with the aftershocks that are much more expected in the coming months. We should also be aware that Fiji is entering into the cyclone season anyway. Just in the past three weeks, we have already seen cyclone affecting the Fiji country. So the Pacific is going into the cyclone season. So that could also mean if there is large-scale rainfall, or if there is another cyclone that is going to hit Tonga or surrounding countries, we could be seeing increased vulnerabilities and humanitarian need efforts that would be required. So what are we doing about it? Already we are planning in terms of any secondary disaster that could happen in Tonga in the coming days. That could be because of aftershocks. That could be because of extreme rainfall because it's the cyclone season. That could be because of disease outbreaks that could happen in the next couple of weeks or a month's time. So all the scenarios are possible. And that's why our aid effort is not just looking at what we can do because of the acid rain or ashfall, but also going to be considering what are the secondary impacts or forthcoming disasters in the next few weeks or months' time that would require our assistance. And that would mean that resources on the ground would be stretched. Right now, we have got 70 volunteers working on this particular response effort. So we are also looking at how can we beef up our human resource capacity in the country to be able to deliver assistance at speed and at scale.
Thanks so much for that. A huge task ahead. Joy Singhal from the Red Cross.